Hello, everyone. Welcome to our special event tonight, Rising Above Race and Color. We all know very well what's going on in the States, a lot of discussion, Black Lives Matter, other issues about racism, institutional racism, racism amongst people, which has really become a discussion around the world. And as in always, Torah has the true guidance and direction of how we view people and what is the correct way for us to approach different types of people. Do we even look at them as different types of people? And we know the famous statement that the Rebbe made to David Dinkins, the Mayor David Dinkins, after the Crown Heights riots, where one person was killed, several persons very seriously injured, and he was looking for re-election, and he came to the Rebbe and he said he wants a blessing so you can be able to be mayor again and bring together two people under one God. And the Rebbe said, corrected him right away, one people under one God. We're one people, we're all equal, and we all have to look at each other in that way. And the question is, how does that happen in real life? And how is it implemented? And how are we able to for ourselves and others to deliver the proper message of the Torah? So we have with us, and I'm going to spotlight our guest, Rabbi Chavie Bruk. Welcome to Montreal. At least I know you were supposed to be in Montreal not long ago, and I want to make sure you're unmuted. You're supposed to be in Montreal not long ago, and it didn't happen because of COVID, and we're very happy. We're very happy to have you with us here tonight. And really, as a fellow shliach, we've always heard about you and your husband's incredible story, both going to a real frontier, going to become shluchim of the Rebbe in Montana, a place where no one even thought there are many Jews, and to set up shop and to worry about the whole state, and really the true leadership passion as co-CEO, or the co-leaders of the Rebbe Shluchim to Montana. And that's one part of your story, but the other part of your story, which is a story that's really more inspiring, is your personal story. And it's so special that you're sharing it and you're ready to share, of creating your family and the various challenges within, and how to truly rise above race and color in our world, in our world that we are in. So I'd like to pass over the mic now to our guest, Chavie, and thank you so much for joining us again. And during the whole time, you will hear as Chavie talks. Afterwards, we'll have a chance for questions, and we'll do it in an orderly way where people can raise their hands, and we'll unmute you and you'll be able to ask your question, hopefully have some very interesting discussion, inspiration, a story of faith and courage, and more. So Chavie, it's all yours.
Thank you so much for having me.
1 second. No. Okay, go on.
You hear me? Everyone's good?
Yes, we're good now.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me. I wish I could be there in person, but we're doing the best we can under these circumstances. And like the rabbi said, I will share my story, and then feel free to ask any questions that you might have. Okay. One night, I dreamed a dream. As I was walking along the beach with God, Across the dark sky flashed scenes from my life. For each scene I noticed two sets of footprints in the sand, one belonging to me and one to my God. After the last scene of my life flashed before me, I looked back at the footprints in the sand, and I noticed that at many times along the path of my life, especially at the very lowest and saddest times, there was only one set of footprints. I don't understand why, when I need you most, you would leave me, he whispered. My precious child, I love you and will never leave you. Never, even during your trials and tests, when you saw only one set of footprints, it was then that I carried you. This powerful poem has expressed for many the internal challenge we experience in our relationship with God. And it is with this that I begin my remarks this evening. My husband often walks around the house humming an old Yiddish melody, Atata Bistu, with words in Yiddish that were composed in the 80s, and the song loosely translates as, Hashem, you are a trustworthy Father, your love for us is unimaginable. Furthermore, says the Holy Baal Shem Tov, every Jew is like Hashem's only child. So does God care about me or not? Does he really hear our cries? Has he lost interest in us? I think it's safe to say that people of all religious backgrounds, including Judaism, have often been chastised for asking questions about their relationship with God. Where do I fit him into my life when all is so chaotic? Does he even still remember who I am? And if yes, why doesn't he always answer my prayers? Tonight, I will address our spiritual schizophrenia and my recurring life theme, riding life's roller coasters, how to hang on, stay strong, and enjoy the ride. I'm not your average public speaker. I never took speaking courses or classes. I never dreamed of doing this as a young child. On the contrary, I'm on the quiet side, and my husband is a family talker. But I share my personal story, our family journey with you, as it's my sincere hope that it will shed light on the struggles so many of us face, and perhaps bring a new perspective on how to cope in our moments of uncertainty. I've been married for over 14 years. I'm a mother of 5, the oldest of 9, and an emissary of the Lubavitcher Rebbe of blessed memory to bring authentic Yiddishkeit, traditional Judaism to Montana's Big Sky. I'd like to take you back for just a moment and ask you to join me in traveling to Crown Heights, the Chabad Hasidic haven in Brooklyn, New York. Rabbi Chaim and Rivki Block, my beloved parents, who were married in 1983, gave birth to me, their first child, on July 25th, 1984. When I was 6 months old, the Rebbe entrusted my parents to represent him in the greater San Antonio community, where they've now served and created a renaissance for Jewish life since 1985. I attended Gangani, the preschool my parents founded. For elementary school, my siblings and I enjoyed studying in the EKA, a local Jewish day school. And later for high school, I left San Antonio and joined an incredible Chabad high school in the windy city of Chicago. For post-high school studies, I traveled to Israel and attended Beth Hana Institute of Higher Education in northern Israel. On New Year's Day of 2006, I was introduced through a mutual friend to a charismatic, funny, and wise yeshiva student from Brooklyn. His name was Chavie Bruk, and he hailed from a wonderful Chabad family, where he was raised with his 4 siblings. 3 months later, on March 22nd, 2006, just a few miles from the Riverwalk and the Alamo, Chaim and I were married under the Texas sky. Like all our peers, the next thing on our agenda was to begin building our very own family. And of course, my parents were geared up and excited to become grandparents and welcome what promised to be their first grandchild. Our first year in New York was lots of fun. We enjoyed New York's kosher restaurants, spending time with Chaim's family. We traveled all over, and we started planning for what would come next. In our case, the launching of a new frontier for Chabad, bringing the Rebbe's lifelong dream of inspiring, encouraging mitzvah observance, and uplifting our people in the wild west of Montana. 1 year later, in March of 2007, on the morning after our first anniversary, Chaim and I boarded a flight from Newark to Minneapolis and on to Bozeman, Montana. With my in-laws, a few relatives, and a couple of Chaim's friends waving from across the TSA checkpoint, we said goodbye to life as we knew it and embarked on our life's mission to the beautiful Jews of Montana, a place that had no traditional Judaism for over 150 years. Yes, as a couple, we were slightly anxious, uncertain about how everything would turn out. And we were also worried about children and hoping that sooner or later we would be blessed with children. Our new Chabad Center was off to a great start as we made remarkable inroads in the community. Jews of all flavors were joining our Shabbat family dinners, holiday celebrations, and even Torah classes. They joined either because they were thirsting for something new and traditional, or because they found it quite amusing that a young Orthodox couple would move to Bozeman and they wanted to know what that was all about. Yet behind the smiles and warmth, behind the day-to-day operations, behind those solidly shut doors, Chaim and I were worrying and agonizing. Was it those babies we wanted so much? Why am I not pregnant yet? Is it me? Is it him? Is it both of us? What should we do? And how many times shall we buy pregnancy tests just to be heartbroken? Bozeman is like heaven on earth. It's picturesque with the most amazing quality of life, but without precious children on our laps, who will we enjoy it with? We couldn't even find a fertility specialist in our state, so for diagnosis and medical evaluation, we needed to travel. With the help of the amazing people at Bonei Olam, an organization devoted to Jewish couples struggling with infertility, we were introduced to the finest doctors in the field. And in the spring of 2008, 2 years after our marriage, after undergoing an invasive medical procedure in New York, the doctor said to us, and I quote, "You are not going to have biological children. There's nothing left to do." It was devastating, it was heartbreaking, and we felt truly hopeless. I was 23, Chaim was 26, and no kids? What was Hashem thinking? Why us? And how could life continue? Can our marriage prosper under this harsh reality? We were young and ambitious, but this did have the potential to destroy it all. We felt like spiritual schizophrenics. One day we were fully on board with total faith in God, and on other days we questioned everything. We'd read incredible stories about the power of going to the mikveh, of observing the precious laws of family purity, and the blessings it is to bestow upon all couples, especially those struggling with infertility. Yet me and Chaim, a couple who drives 7 hours each way every month, at times through treacherous winter storms to use the mikveh in Salt Lake City, Utah, we are told no children. Where's the blessing and where's the justice? I tried to find comfort in the fact that the Lubavitcher Rebbe and his Rebbetzin, my cherished guides and role models, didn't merit biological children of their own. And in fact, our patriarchs and matriarchs, Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebecca, Jacob and Rachel struggled with infertility. But as we say in Yiddish, it was a shvacha nechama. It was a very weak comfort. And it didn't give me or Chaim long-time solace. And we were distraught. Yet during the despair, in those untenable moments of sorrow, what Chaim and I discovered together is that there are moments in life that we merit seeing God and others where we can't see him at all, but rely on our faith in him. Montana is beautiful 24/7, 365 days a year. And I welcome each of you to come out for a visit, spend the Shabbos with us in Bozeman, and you can see the miracle of nature for yourself. Hopefully, we'll be allowed to travel one day again. The Talmud teaches that when one gazes at nature, seeing the miracles of creation, when we see the miracle of medicine, which has come so far to help those in need of healing, or even watching a flower bud in your front yard, this is a clear sighting of God. Stand at your very own Niagara Falls or at our very own Old Faithful in Yellowstone, gaze at the glaciers in Banff, deep in the Canadian Rockies, or the awesomeness of the Grand Canyon. At those moments, one doesn't need to believe in God. At those moments, God is right before your eyes. When we see God, when he's visibly apparent to us, it would be a crime to believe in him, as we're denying his very presence before us. It's when one is experiencing a permanent infertility diagnosis, when one is walking through a pediatric cancer ward, or when looking at the casualties of COVID-19, which has changed our lives in so many ways. And so many of us find ourselves confused, feeling hopeless, and even depressed on occasion. It is then that we need to pull out something deeper, something essential, pull out our faith card, as it is with that unshakable faith that will allow us to survive and perhaps even thrive. It is faith that will shine light in our very dark tunnel. So when we hear trigger words like, "Oh, we're expecting in November," or "Do you have any children yet?" or "I'm sure it'll happen in the right time," it would awaken such raw emotions for us, but also for the countless souls and beautiful couples and individuals who are struggling and feeling alone and sad. And it was in these moments of hopelessness and near anger that we turn to each other and we'd say, we've got to pull out the faith card again. We have no choice. So going back to our story, at the Kinnes HaShluchim, the annual Chabad Rabbis Conference in the fall of 2008, while sitting in a Brooklyn shul, Chaim ran into his old friend, Yossi from Moscow. For the first time ever, Chaim opened up about our pretty awful situation. His friend, visibly shocked, was comforting, but like most, wasn't sure exactly what to say. And before they parted ways, Chaim asked him to please think about us if any baby in need of adoption ever comes your way. That night, Chaim attended an evening for the rabbis where they showed an unpublicized video in which the Rebbe encourages two women to adopt babies. He called me immediately, sharing with me the amazing, undeniable divine providence that just transpired. This year, when we're so lost, searching for a glimmer of light and hope, we merit to see this video, and we knew adoption was meant for us. But the months dragged on, and we looked into adoptions in Israel, Ukraine, Russia, the US, but nothing panned out. We learned from the experts in the field of adoption of all the intricacies involved in the process, which was extremely overwhelming. The legalities and costs seemed unfeasible to deal with. We learned about the process and what the possibilities are and aren't, and we were simply lost. On August 28, 2009, a little baby girl was born in a slum hospital outside of Moscow. A young Jewish mother gave birth to her child 7.5 months into her unexpected pregnancy. The baby weighed about 3 pounds and was not in good health, to say the least. Mom was scared and shocked. Her baby was hospitalized for over a month, hooked to a respirator, and underwent several surgeries. This fighting baby miraculously survived the Russian medical care, and she still had a long road to full recovery. The doctors encouraged her to take her to America for a medical evaluation. This woman called Chaim's friend in Moscow for guidance. Yes, that same friend who Chaim had spoken to almost a year earlier. As loving souls, Yossi and his amazing wife Luba cared for this mother and her baby. And when she finally decided to listen to the doctors and take her baby for medical evaluation in the States, they both traveled with her, leaving behind their entire family. During the long flight over and later while visiting the doctors, this young mom decided that she wants to give her baby to an adoptive family. They worked with her, they spoke with her about the ramifications of her decision, but she was adamant to have her baby adopted. At that point, Chaim's friend called and said, Chaim, do you remember that conversation you had with me last year? Are you still interested in adoption? After overcoming immense challenges, finally, on the brightest Tuesday morning of our lives, on November 10th, over 10 years ago, sitting in a gas station in a small town in New Jersey, we got the call that was almost 4 years in the making. It was like getting a call directly from God. It was the adoption agency. Rabbi Bruk, you and your wife can come now and get your beautiful baby. And we sure did. It was that beautiful morning that Chaim made me a mommy and Chaim an Abba. The gift of adoption is something a lot of people can't relate to, as it's an experience like no other. And while Chaim and I don't know what it's like to have a biological child, we do know how amazing it is to have an adoptive child. And it was on that Tuesday morning that it became crystal clear to me that God is with us, guiding us, loving us, and running the entire show. So when it rains, it pours, and just a few months after Chaya's adoption, my husband received a call from a rabbi in Hoboken, New Jersey, about another potential adoption. So on Shmini Atzeret, less than 1 year after Chaya came into our life, our second daughter, Zizi, was born. As Zizi was born 3 weeks early, we were in Texas celebrating the holiday when we got a fax. Remember those? They existed 9 years ago. And it said, it's a girl. And as it was a 3-day holiday, the anxiety was palpitating, and it was Chaim's younger sister and brother who actually picked Zizi up immediately after the holiday. And we met Zizi for the very first time the next morning at Enterprise Rent-A-Car in Newark Airport. How many parents can say they met their baby for the first time in Newark Airport? Pretty sure not many. When my mother-in-law Hanshi asked Chaim, why the rush to adopt a second child so soon? Chaim responded, Ma, I thought you taught me that we don't believe in family planning. She laughed. We all laughed, and she never asked again. But in September 2010, when we adopted Zizi, our second child, all seemed well enough. She and Chaya, our oldest at the time, had lots of fun playing together, and they were cracking each other up in their adjacent cribs. We read books together, we enjoyed swimming lessons, and frolicked in the outdoors. That was a hallmark of Big Sky Country. Then one Sunday morning in the fall of 2011, just after Zizi's first birthday, everything changed. Zizi was sitting in her high chair, Chaim was feeding her breakfast, and she was jolly as usual, when suddenly her head dropped and she started experiencing what seemed like an epileptic seizure. Chaim screamed on top of his lungs for me to come from upstairs, and in pajamas, holding Zizi tight with our 2-year-old Chaya in the back seat, Chaim drove like a New York maniac and got us to the ER Bozeman within 6 minutes of her seizure. While I held Zizi for the initial intervention and attempt at diagnosis, Chaim immediately called our local team of medical friends, which included our local Jewish OBGYN, who's a dear friend of our shul, and Zizi's angel-like pediatrician who knew our kids from the moment they were adopted. The ER doc started blood work and CT scans and MRIs and all the routine tests you do with a kid who'd had some type of neurological episode. We eagerly awaited the results, which all came back inconclusive. Zizi's young and precious brain didn't show any of the expected abnormalities associated with epilepsy, and they shrugged it off by saying, and I quote, "Sometimes kids get a seizure and it never comes back." Time passed, and it was evident to both me and Chaim that something wasn't right. Zizi was slower through expected milestones. Walking, talking, potty training, all took slower than usual. We schlepped to Billings, our big city, to see a visiting neurologist, and he too was adamant that Zizi's developmental delays were all behavioral, not neurological, and that the seizures and her slow development were totally unrelated. But we didn't buy it. And you may ask why. Why not just let her progress at her own pace and let it go? Here's why. Every day or two, Zizi would have a total meltdown. No, not the conventional tantrums or crying meltdowns that all kids have. These would last about an hour and a half. She would black out. She couldn't hear us. She wasn't consolable, and her crying disrupted our entire household. We knew this wasn't behavioral. Something wasn't right, and we were determined to figure it out. Parenting is hard enough. Every self-help book, every parenting magazine, and most importantly, our deep and wise Jewish traditions all give us so much direction on how to raise children, how to speak to them, interact with them, react to them, but nothing teaches you what to do with the unknown. How are we to help our beloved child when no expert knows what's going on? It was very scary. Should we continue searching for medical answers? Is this genetic? Did her biological parents have this too? Should we fly her out of state for secondary consultation? Will insurance cover it? If not, can we pull together the funds needed for this? A classmate of mine with special needs, with a child with special needs, told me of a pediatric neurology center in New Jersey where she had taken her son for an evaluation and who she thought was really good. So November of 2014, I boarded a flight out of Bozeman with 4-year-old Zizi, and we headed to Cherry Hill, New Jersey for a 3-day evaluation appointment. The primary neurologist was a remarkable Hungarian doctor who in 2 short days concluded without a shadow of a doubt that Zizi isn't sleeping at night, though it may look like she is. Her brain is unstable, and most importantly, her meltdown episodes, those crying hours, are actually seizures, which are absolutely impacting Zizi's development. The Talmud teaches that there's no greater joy than the removal of doubt and the advent of clarity, but this clearness was a double-edged sword. So yes, we were getting closer to figuring out what was going on, but at that, a new world of challenges opened at that very moment. So we headed back from New Jersey in a daze. The doctors wanted her to undergo genetic testing to confirm her form of epilepsy. And indeed, we traveled to Billings, where she underwent a spinal tap, and that, together with a $22,000 genetic test, to the dismay of the insurance company, confirmed that Zizi has a rare genetic disorder called GLUT1 deficiency. It was crystal clear that our dear Zizi, this special neshama, this special soul, entrusted to us along with our other children, has a disorder that only 500 people worldwide have been diagnosed with. So what is GLUT1? And I quote, GLUT1 syndrome is a genetic disorder that impairs brain metabolism. Glucose isn't transported properly into the brain, leaving it starving for the energy it needs to grow and function. GLUT1 deficiency causes an array of symptoms. Some signs and symptoms may include seizures, movement disorders, speech and language disorders, and developmental delays. There is no cure for GLUT1. The current standard of care is a ketogenic diet, which helps improve most symptoms for most patients by giving the brain an alternate source of energy and helps optimize brain growth and development. So we read that and we were not very excited. All we could think was like, oh my gosh, Zizi was already being treated with speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy. She was already taking medications for seizures. What is a ketogenic diet and what are we up against? Do we even have the strength to deal with this new reality? Do we have what it takes to care for Zizi and give her what she needs while giving our other children what they need? Like a camel that can only carry a load that matches its strength, the Talmud teaches that God doesn't give any of us more than we can handle. Yet we wondered, is God placing too much trust in us? I pondered, can I really handle this? How can we parent when all parenting norms were thrown out the window? This new ketogenic diet is a high-fat, moderate protein, and low-carb diet that causes the body to produce and burn ketones for fuel in the absence of glucose. These ketones then act as an alternative fuel source, and the energy they provide can help alleviate some of the symptoms of GLUT1 and help supply better nourishment for the developing brain. In simple English, it's a pain in the you-know-what. DC can only eat meals that we prepare and measure to a specific ratio. Only certain ingredients are permitted, and it doesn't include any food that kids normally like. She can't ever eat out at a restaurant or at anyone else's home. And when we travel, which we do often, we have to bring all her food along. Chaim or I travel with her every couple of months to Colorado's Children's Hospital, where they monitor her progress with lots of blood work, psychoanalysis, and testing galore. So how does one cope when your little cute, cuddly toddler is struggling with her health and creating such a burden on the family? The answer is parenting with God. I wouldn't be able to get through these moments if I didn't recognize that Zizi is a gift from God, as each child is. I wouldn't be able to get through the day if I didn't believe that each of my children was meant for me and that I'm 100% capable of giving them everything they need. So the good news is that Zizi's diet is working well, and while she has a lifelong of challenges ahead of her, she's developing beautifully, and as she plays catch up for all the years she wasn't energized properly. So these two kiddos were just a year apart and were a lot to handle, but my dream of having a home full of kids never ceased. Yet in the world of adoption, like in most things in life, you can want all you want, but it doesn't mean it will happen on your timeline. And then it happened. It was the morning after Simchat Torah of 2012, when Chaya was 3 and Zizi was 2. My husband received a call from a fellow that asked if we were looking to adopt another child, and if yes, would we be open to a Black, or to be more exact, a biracial child. Chaim and I deliberated and discussed the ins and outs of raising a Black Orthodox child, in Montana no less, and decided we were all in. So in April of 2013, just after Passover, we adopted our third child, Menny. Menny's adorable. He's on the very wild side, sharp as a tack, and he's really hard to keep up with, and he cracks us up all the time. He's also started asking questions about his race. When he was 4, he told my husband that he wants to be white. During the conversation, my husband took out his phone and started showing him pictures of famous Black people. His response was priceless. To the picture of President Obama, he said, he's not Black. But to the picture of Oprah, he said, all right, fine, she's Black. But go figure, it's the funny observations out of the mouth of a now 7-year-old that keep us smiling. But more recently, he asked us at the dinner table, are there still people in this world who don't like Black people? And it forces us to chat about the tough subjects and realities of life in a productive and healthy way. And it's uniquely interesting because while most Jews aren't racist, many aren't used to seeing Black-looking Chabadniks in shul. It's different, but different shouldn't scare us. It should be an opportunity to be more embracing, more compassionate, and more open-minded. A few years back, while our daughter Chaya was taking a bath on Martin Luther King Day, she spoke about what she had learned about Martin Luther King in school. She then said, Mom, I'm so grateful for Martin Luther King. And so I asked her, well, tell me why. And she said, if Martin Luther King didn't have a dream, many wouldn't be able to be my brother. Raising a Black child, especially with today's tense relations in the United States, is a tough balancing act. Manny knows bits and pieces about what's going on, and he's very perceptive. So we explain to him as best as we can to a 7-year-old that sadly, racism does still exist in some circles, and it's abhorrent. But at the same time, remind him that the fact that he's adopted by white parents, the fact that he goes to a mostly white school where he's treated like a superstar, the fact that we've had a Black president for 8 years are all positive signs of the progress that has been made. Yet, we are also very careful not to dictate for him what that Black experience should look like, as we aren't Black and don't know what it's like to be seen that way. It's part of who he is that he should cherish, embrace, and as he gets older, figure out how to relate to it in a way that suits him best. In August of 2016, a lovely 12-year-old girl, Courtney, joined our camp, Gun Israel. Her mom died tragically when she was 5 years old, and her dad, who loved her, couldn't and didn't raise her with the stability that each precious child deserves. After spending 2 weeks in our home and loving her time with our family, she didn't want to leave. Though she headed home to Wyoming, in her mind, Bozeman was where she wanted to stay. Chaim and I had adopted 3 babies before, but a preteen, unlike babies, they come with a long history of baggage that affects their every day, their every thought, their every emotion. Courtney was placed by God at our doorstep, and we needed to answer his call. And I know God would have understood if he would have said, sorry, you just can't do this. We're not cut out for it. But we knew it was our calling, and we said yes. Courtney's child number 4, she's an amazing, talented, smart, and fun young woman, and she will undoubtedly grow to boundless heights. Does that mean she's always easy? Not in the slightest. Are any girls her age easy? Does she have a lot to repair internally? She'd be the first to say so. But does she have a glowing soul that's in love with Judaism? And is she a remarkable older sister to Chaya, Zizi, and many? You bet. She chose her own Jewish name, Shoshana Yael, as she felt like she's a Shoshana, a rose plucked from amongst the thorns, and like Yael in the book of Judges, she's a warrior fighting for a better life for herself. When adopting Shoshana, it was odd for Chaya. She was not the oldest anymore, and yet she's still our first child. But these issues are addressed and add to the novelty of our family that we've allowed God to create for us. So Shoshana had a lot more to sift through than we imagined, but her journey has changed us for the better. From her adoption in 2016 through the school year of 2018, Shoshana attended our local public school while supplementing her Jewish studies with her online tutor. Keeping her close to her new family was the right thing to do and gave her time to blend in with her new parents and siblings. In September of 2018, the beginning of the new school year and her high school year, with the support of her unbelievable therapist, we sent Shoshana off to a conventional Chabad high school in Florida. But after a few months, it became clear that her unhealthy behavior patterns were a reflection of undeniable deeper wounds that would have been an immense burden on an adult, how much more so on a young growing soul. With the guidance of friends and mentors, in March of 2019, a little over a year ago, we did something radical. We sent Shoshana to a wilderness therapy program in southern Utah, where for 4 months she lived with 7 other girls and a few staff in the desert of Utah. No bathrooms, no kitchen, no technology, no cabin, no shower, no clocks, not even tents, all natural. You go to sleep when the sun sets and you wake up when the sun rises. You hike miles and miles a day and enjoy the pristine red rock nature of the Beehive State. It was a nurturing environment, but one that forced Shoshana and the other girls in the encampment to look inwards and deal with their raw self and share that with their staff and their peers. It was phenomenal. Initially, she was furious, naturally, but today she will tell you that although not an easy experience, the time in the wilderness gave her foundational tools that can be used to change the trajectory of her life. After graduating from wilderness on July 1st of last year, we transferred her to a girls' therapeutic academy where the focus is equine therapy, working with horses who, like the girls, experience trauma. Together, the girls and their horses work through their trauma and grow in that healing process. Shoshana's horse is named Roman, super cute, and they certainly have their work cut out for them. And Chaim and I don't know how this story will end for Shoshana and for any of our kids for that matter, but we do know that we're giving her the best possible tools for her progress and success into the future. And if these 4 didn't keep us busy enough, 2.5 years ago, Chaim got a call from a woman in Montana, and yes, on August 18th, 2017, we adopted our beloved Hanalea, named after Chaim's mom, who passed away at the young age of 54 back in 2010. When I wake up to my children each morning, I pause and I remember how blessed I am. And I remember that we can't decide what life will bring us. We can only decide how we will respond to what's sent our way. It may be harsh to recognize that we don't control our children's outcomes, but it's also really liberating. We are meant to do the work, persevere through the tiring days and sleepless nights, and after all that, to live life without any expectations for particular results. We are to cherish the work and the growth and progress made within ourselves and with our children in those many moments, and not allow the purity of those moments to be tainted by our own agendas. Don't misunderstand me. There are enormous hardships we experience almost every day. Each child has their personal needs, and navigating and the process of figuring out what they are is a full-time job. Do they need attachment therapy or behavioral therapy? Do they need a specialized school or just a special assistance within a regular school? Do they need a psychologist or a psychiatrist? All of this is extremely stressful. And all of these unique needs are in addition to the constant stress of operating a Chabad center in a place with a small populace of Jews. which makes getting a minyan, paying the bills, and giving our children a Jewish education really hard. But it's not about the what Hashem places before us, but it's rather about how we're going to respond to it. God is not my personal ATM machine who unloads cash to me just because I punched in what I think are the right code numbers. Not that God can't, of course he can. But he doesn't want us to be spiritual, physical, or material freeloaders. He wants us to do the heavy lifting, as it makes us better people, better parents, better spouses, and he will give us what we need when we need it. I get it, why some parents who struggle, who see their children suffer in any way, can turn their back on God. I get it. It hurts so much that they don't think there's an option. I don't judge them at all. I just disagree with them, as it's with God's love, God's care, and God's Torah guidance and how to see each child as a gift that I'm able to fight on to give all my children what I hope is a great life. But it's even more than faith, it's trust. Trust is a potent formula. When we ask for God's blessings of good and place our total trust in him, it has the ability, the spiritual power to actually create that reality. Do I ever question God? Of course I do. So did Abraham and Moses, Isaiah, Jeremiah, King David, and all the other faithful heroes and heroines of Judaism. Only someone that believes in God can question him. If he doesn't exist and he means nothing to me, I wouldn't bother conversing with him. Precisely because I love him, precisely because I'm in awe of him, because I know he guided us to our 5 miracles, I wonder why the mystery. Why can't it be a bit more straightforward? My questions and hours of thinking don't take away from my faith in him, it strengthens it. I struggle often, but life is full of struggles. Escaping them doesn't work. Overcoming them is always possible, be it with a lot of inner courage. And I share this all because each of us encounters challenges in our lives. And what I've learned is that everybody has a story. And I can state unequivocally that God is an operator par excellence. And when we are meant to transition from a place of impossibilities to a place of revealed good, it will happen like a blink of an eye. Don't give up. He will not fail you. I love this quote from Dr. Seuss. I love it so much that I had it engraved on a plaque and hung in my house. Life's too short to wake up with regrets. So love the people who treat you right, forgive the ones who don't, and believe that everything happens for a reason. If you get a chance, take it. If it changes your life, let it. Nobody said it would be easy. They just promised it would be worth it. And I want to leave you with one last story. Once upon a time, a daughter complained to her father that her life was miserable and that she didn't know how she was going to make it. She was tired of fighting and struggling all the time, and it seemed just as one problem was solved, another one soon followed. Her father, a chef, took her to the kitchen, and he filled 3 pots with water and placed each on a high fire. Once the 3 pots began to boil, he placed potatoes in one pot, eggs in the second pot, and ground coffee beans in the third. He then let them sit and boil, and without saying a word to his daughter, she moaned and waited impatiently, wondering what was he doing, and after 20 minutes, he turned off the burners. He took the potatoes out of the pot and placed them in a bowl. He pulled the eggs out and placed them in a bowl, and he ladled the coffee into a cup. Turning to her, he said, "What do you see?" "Potatoes, eggs, and coffee," she hastily replied. "Look closer," he said. "Touch the potatoes." She did and noted that they were soft. He then asked her to take an egg and break it. After pulling off the shell, she observed the hard-boiled egg. Finally, he asked her to sip the coffee. Its rich aroma brought a smile to her face. "What does this mean?" she asked. He then explained that the potatoes, the eggs, and the coffee beans had each faced the same adversity, the boiling water. However, each one reacted differently. The potato went in strong, hard, and unrelenting, but in the boiling water, it became soft and weak. The egg was fragile with a thin outer shell protecting its liquid interior until it was put in the boiling water. Then the inside of the egg became hard. However, the ground coffee beans were unique. After they were exposed to the boiling water, they changed the water and created a delicious beverage. "Which one are you?" he asked his daughter. "When adversity knocks on your door, how do you respond? Are you a potato, an egg, or a coffee bean?" And I want to conclude with a heartfelt prayer that all those who are experiencing challenges with childbirth, child rearing, or life in general, because life is just hard, who know the pain of raising children, physically or spiritually, should merit the inner strength to deal with their journey and merit along with all our people the coming of Mashiach now. Thank you very much.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, Javi. Wow, this is very, very powerful, full of courage, faith. I don't even know how many words we can put that will properly describe what we just heard now. It's, you know, just natural families where people are giving birth to their children, they struggle, having a few children and really having a family of five children coming from very different, can't say so much backgrounds, but from different places and different situations. It's very, very incredible, and not only call it kavod, we take our hats off. It's unbelievable. But I want to make one more notice before just a few questions I want to throw out, and then I would love to hear from everyone. We've been involved here with people in Montreal who had to adopt. We know some lawyers who were involved in adopting, and in every situation, I know it's been a very difficult process just to be able to adopt a baby. And hearing your story, and like you say, with your faith in Hashem, how Hashem brought about each of your children to you, He brought it to your hand. Obviously, it was your decision. You had to make it, which is incredible. This is I think a great sign of your faith, your courage, your belief, your emunah that you can really give them the best, and Hashem believing that. So it's heartwarming, heart wrenching. It's all many different emotions in it together. And just curious, your leaders, shluchim in Montana, a small community, I'm sure quite close knit. How has the community adapted to your family, your decisions? In a place like Montana, and as you are where you are.
Okay, so that's a really good question. Our community, and you're correct in the fact that our community is very tight knit. We're really like family. We're very blessed to have a wonderful group of amazing people, and they couldn't have been more supportive and embracing and loving and just kind without missing a beat. There was never a time where we felt like there was judgment or anything involved. And I think, as we were put in a very unique situation that, we have people that come to our shul and come to our synagogue and listen to us talk and teach Torah and learn Chassidus, and it all teaches us about how we're going to overcome challenges and how to be embracing to every single person that comes your way. And we have the unique opportunity to live what we say. We get to walk the walk, not only talk the talk. And I think that put us in a unique position to really show that this is not, when we teach Torah, when we're sharing what we believe, it's not only what we believe, it's not only what we say, it's what we do. And I think that had a very big impact.
That's incredible. Just interesting to think, if Hashem's circumstances would have been, they would be in a different community in New York, in a city where, maybe it would have been, how it would have played itself out. But here you have a chance for really to be a way to inspire so many people, your community and many other shluchim, ourselves, and many other people around. And I understand you're talking in a lot of places now, which is very special. How has this sort of changed you and your husband, going down this whole path? With obviously, like you mentioned, I'm sure there are always ups and downs and the challenges that come along, but you talk with very great strength of determination and courage, and which is incredible. But how has this changed your view of different things in the world and vis-a-vis, people?
So I think it's very similar to, I think, everybody's life, right? Our experiences and the things that we come across and have to persevere shape who we are. And I always look back and I say, I don't know who I would have been without these circumstances. Like, it just pushed me to be hopefully a better person and a better parent, because when you're pushed to the edge of what you think you can handle and you're forced to dig deep and come out stronger, it does something to you. So not like I don't think any of us would ask for challenges, but looking back and trying to make meaning of the challenges that we do have, it's definitely very clear that challenges do make us who we are, which is hopefully better and stronger, more empathetic, loving, and caring people.
Incredible, incredible. Definitely inspiration for us, all as parents. I'm sure it's interesting how they all get along together. Actually,
They're
your
just
daughter,
like regular siblings. They fight all day,
that's beautiful. Actually, my daughter,
especially during COVID.
I imagine 100%. We got to really learn each other during this time.
Oh gosh, yeah.
With your daughter.
Our daughter was in camp with your daughter, Nana, 1 year. In
Where?
Amuna.
Which camp?
Amuna.
Oh,
Yeah.
Shoshana.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so nice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What I'd like to do is to open up, and if someone wants to ask a question, if you know how to raise your hand, I'll unmute you. Or if you send something through the chat, we'll have a chance to ask questions. Javi is ready to handle whatever question you have.
It's very, very rare that somebody scares me with a question. I don't think it's ever happened. So feel free to ask whatever you want, and I'll answer if I can, and I will tell you what I can't answer. So don't be shy, and nothing's off the table.
Spoke very eloquently, and you covered a lot. But let's see what we get. And we're all new still to Zooms and other things. I don't know if everyone knows well how to raise hands or put. But let me see if what we have. Someone asked a question. Do you have a picture of your children? They love to see a picture of your children.
Absolutely. We'll see if you can find it on my phone, and you can see if we can see it on Zoom. Oh.
Meanwhile, prepare your other questions while we're hearing and on chat or on.
Keep on going. I can multitask here.
Do we have any other question while Chavie is seeing? As all mothers, very proud of their children, showing off their children.
I know I have to go through like 5,000 pictures on my phone, but I'm almost there. Here we go. Okay, here we go.
How do you raise your hand? Wow. That is incredible.
One day I'll figure out how to do a slideshow and a Zoom at the same time, because when I speak live, I do have a slideshow, but it's harder to do that on Zoom.
Yeah, they look beautiful and they're very happy together. So we have a question here. Do your children ask about their biological parents?
So yes and no. No, because their story is, well, the answer is yes, they do, but their story, they know from the second they're born that they're adopted, and they know their story. It's like part of who they are. So it's not like one day they're sat down and they said, by the way, you're adopted and this is your story. Like, it's something that's very natural for them, and then they always are aware of and know. So as they grow and as they develop, they ask different questions about their story, and we are always addressing and answering questions age appropriately, and the kids will tell you what they're ready to hear by the questions that they ask. So yes, their stories and their adoption journey is something that we talk about openly all the time.
That is incredible to hear, because many people deal with this issue and a lot of confusion, and so wow, that's very brave also as parents. There's a lot of people feel they may not be loved in the same way, so it's really very special to hear. Is your daughter Zizi in a regular Jewish school, or really your other children? So you live in Montana. How do they build their Jewish identity, as children in Montana?
Okay, so none of my children are in Jewish schools because we don't have Jewish schools in Bozeman. So ZC is in a regular public school with amazing assistants and what they call an IEP. I don't know if they have that in Canada, what term they use that in Canada. It's an individualized educational plan. And so yeah, all our kids are in public school and they get supplemented with their Yiddishkeit, their Jewish learning with tutors online. It's not perfect, but it's the best we can do, and it's works for our family. We always thought we were going to homeschool because there's no Jewish school, but that definitely wasn't working for our family. So we had to reevaluate and do what was best for our family. And it's, thank God, we're so happy with the schools that they're in, and it's a challenge to get their Jewish education in as well, but we have to have a lot of faith and hope that God understands that it's his responsibility too to take care of our kids, and we do our part, and the rest we leave up to him.
That's incredible. Do they have any issues being in a non-Jewish school, being Jewish children, being religious Jewish children, any type of anti-Semitism also possibly, or any other types of situation?
Yeah. So one of my daughters does like to use that as an excuse for, like, when she doesn't want her to do her work or she's frustrated, she'll be like, it's not my fault I'm not in a Jewish school. So, but for the most part, they love their school. They are so proud of their identity, which I'm so grateful for. They tell everybody anything they know, especially about the holidays that they're missing school for. Their teachers and their principals all have learned so much, and they're so grateful to be exposed to Yiddishkeit, and they're so understanding and respectful. So I know it's not like that everywhere, but in Bozeman, we're just so blessed to have such an open and loving community that they want everyone to succeed. So they will do whatever it takes for my kids to succeed, and will take anything into consideration. So Baruch Hashem, it's beautiful.
That's incredible. Has many particularly experienced any type of, in school or outside, where people don't necessarily know you, has had actually experienced any type of racism or similar situations?
I don't know, like, when he's in school, I don't know everything that he encounters, and I don't know if he tells me everything. But from what I know, and from the community that they're in, we're in a very white community. We're not Bozeman's not diverse. We're not in an easy accessible place, and it's 9 months of winter, so it's not a place that people just end up. So he is a minority of a minority, and he's very perceptive. Like the question he asked, like, he understands that he's different and that there are some racial tensions, but I don't think he's ever experienced it firsthand. I don't think anyone's ever told him anything negative. And we're grateful for that. Do I think he will encounter it in the future? Absolutely. I think, he's going to grow up, he's going to leave Bozeman, he's going to go into bigger inner cities, and he's going to feel it. And hopefully, he's raised with the self-confidence and the understanding that he can be proud of who he is. And when someone, is inappropriate towards him, it's their problem, not his. And that's all we can do. I can't protect him for forever. I can just hopefully prepare him and enough that he just feels confident in who he is, and we hope for the best.
Listen, with your confidence, with your strengths, I'm sure you're doing a great job.
For sure.
Yeah, Dina had a question.
I wanted to know, how are your kids, like, with their first cousins? Like, are they all very close? Like, your siblings' kids and your husband's siblings' kids, like?
Such a good question. So yes, I'm actually at my parents' house right now with our cousins, and they're like best friends. Like, you'd never know. In our day-to-day life, like, I speak about this, and I have a huge amount of I put a lot of importance in, making this something that we can talk about openly, and but in our day-to-day life, it's not really relevant. Like, there are kids, they have my parents or their grandparents, my husband's parents or their grandparents, their cousins. Like, you really like all the cousins are just like they're part of the family, like
So like
any.
they FaceTime them and everything all the time, and when you're not there. Beautiful.
Absolutely.
Very nice.
Absolutely.
So,
Our families are amazing. We are so blessed and fortunate to have just supportive and accepting family that just embrace all the crazy things that we do.
great.
Well, talking about crazy things, before you were courageous to go down the route with adopting children and all the situations, just to go out to Montana, which is
Exactly.
years ago, I don't think any shliach would have thought of going out to Montana. It's too small of a community spread out. And incredible the mark you have made there. That's unbelievable. Maybe you want to talk a few minutes about
Yeah, like what the Jewish community is like there and how big it is.
like how you guys started, like going into a place where you said no, that has never been traditional Judaism or.
Yeah, it was really like it's really isolated, not only Jewish wise, but also it's a small town. So like you heard in my talk, that even for medical treatment for my daughter, for ourselves, for any of our kids who needed any specialized medical treatment, we had to travel. We don't have access to specialized medical care. We have great pediatricians, we have great doctors, but if anything is a little unusual, they're not going to be able to handle it. So it's isolated in any sense of the form, in any way you look at it. But we love every minute of it. Montana is, if you haven't been there, it is absolutely breathtakingly gorgeous. Like I look out my window and I've been there for over 13 years, and I still, every time I look out my window, I can't believe this is where I live. I'm like not on some vacation spot, and it comes with a harsh winter of 9 months. I know Montrealers, you're good at the winter, but our winters last longer. We have snow before Rosh Hashanah and snow after Shavuos. So we definitely, it's you have to not be faint of heart to stick it out. A lot of people move in the summer and then because it's glorious in the summer, and then the first winter they're out, so and just it is, and the people there, and it's Bozeman is a wonderful culture town, and a beautiful place to raise a family. And Jewish wise, I mean, there's it's a small community because we're a small town, but it's a vibrant Jewish community. We're busy, we have enough to do with the people who are there, and we get our food shipped in every couple months on a truck. And we have now mikvah in our home, so we don't have to drive 7 hours each way anymore. So that's awesome. And we are just, doing our thing.
Wow.
Incredible.
I have another couple questions. As a woman, I can ask this. What do you do for for me time, like personal time for yourself? Like what do you do? Like, how do you
Take care of myself.
take care of yourself? How do you get the strength to continue doing everything that you need to do?
Okay, so the number one thing that I would say is therapy. It has changed my life, and I don't think I'd be able to be most people don't think I'm sane anyway, but to be even a little bit sane, that has made a huge difference in my life. And I think, that's also something that should not be stigmatized, or, therapy is an unbelievable tool that we have, and I wish more people would make use of it. So that gives me my once a week time to say whatever I want to say objectively with nobody judging me. And so that's huge. I also take time before COVID. I went to the gym, I exercised. That was very important for me. I love to read. I always have a good book on me. And I tell my husband, like, there's some days where I'm just like, I'm up to here, like I need a break. And he would, he'll make sure that I get, a couple hours to myself to go shopping or whatever, just to have some alone time. And then I think, that's pretty much the main things that I do. And there are days where we just go crazy and it's a bad day, and you go to sleep in the morning and you hope it's a better day. And sometimes you have a bad week, and sometimes you have a bad month. But, hopefully, what I found that is, if I let myself be upset, or if I let myself have a bad day, instead of pushing it away or feeling guilty that I don't have a right to have a bad day, then I can move through it faster and then be ready to come out the other side. But when we push that stuff away and we don't allow ourselves to feel, then we're in trouble, because it's going to always come up when we don't address what's going on.
Wow. Okay. So here I have two more questions that people asked. What do you have to say about parents who want to adopt but are hesitant?
Okay, so adoption is a beautiful, amazing thing, and I wouldn't change it for the world, but it's definitely has a lot of challenges. And so you're never going to be able to know every scenario and exactly what it's going to look like. But I would say that if you are going into adoption, I would say you need to be sure that this is something that you feel comfortable with, and feel comfortable enough knowing that you're going into it with a little bit of the unknown. You don't know exactly what it's going to turn out like, but you don't want to go into it and then regret it, because this is not only you that's affecting, it's affecting the children that you're bringing into your family. So any hesitation, I would say, hold off until you're ready, and it's not for everybody. That's okay. I don't take that personally when someone tells me, oh my gosh, I can never do it. That's okay. It's not, everybody has different things in their lives that they can handle, that they want to do. And we're not all created the same, and it's not better or worse, or you're not stronger or less strong with whatever you choose to do. So I would say that it's definitely something that you want to go in all eyes open. And if you're going in it with a spouse, be on the same page, because the last thing you need is internal struggling or animosity while you're trying to raise a family.
Right. Another question. Did your kids need to go through conversion? Somebody asked.
Okay, so some of my kids were born Jewish and some were not. So the children who were not did have to go through a conversion. And thank God we have amazing rabbis out there that guide you through the process. And it's not as scary as it sounds. It's, you have to do the things, there's steps, you got to follow the rules, but they're not out to get you. And it's a really pretty seamless process. There's a mosquito, excuse me.
Okay, Texas, there are mosquitoes as well. Someone asked the question, what happens if someone knocked on your door tomorrow with another child?
Well, that's a question.
Are you such a okay,
okay, if it was
same page now or not?
that's a good question. We're on the same page, but we always have to respect where the other person's at, right? But yes, if someone knocked on my door right now, I would definitely be all in, and then I would have to convince my husband to be all in.
The real Isha Chayil, the real woman of valor.
Incredible, unbelievable.
Wow, this was amazing.
This really was incredible. You really were so inspiring.
I see there's one. Yeah, I think his name is Morty. Keeps on raising his hand.
Oh, Morty. Let me unmute Morty. Morty, Ardeida, how are you, Morty?
Thank you. Baruch Hashem, thank you.
You have a question?
Chava,
Yes.
During your entire speech, I was choking up. And I felt that you and your husband are so blessed to be able to actually do this. Your children are blessed for finding you as a parent. And I am so happy that I logged in. You made my life better. Be well. Sei gesund.
Thank you so much. That was so
that was amazing.
I'm humbled by that. And you're right. We are the ones that are blessed, and we feel so grateful and so appreciative that, sometimes we struggle so much to find our path and our purpose in life. And I feel like God kind of like handed it right to us. He's like, this is what you're meant to do. Now go do it. So not everybody gets that, such a clear message. And we do feel really grateful that it was so clear for us.
I think what Morty said is a sentiment that everybody is feeling. I'm getting significant comments on Facebook, and here different people are feeling really, really very special. And we want to wish you and your husband lots of happiness, lots of nachas from your beautiful children. May, like all parents, bring them to the mechuppah and God willing, grandchildren. Success in your shlichus in Montana, and really you've made an incredible mark there. There's even, if you want to tell, there's even a film about you guys, I believe, right?
That's my husband's apartment.
There's a film about you guys, and the rabbi goes out west. And maybe you just want to say one last sort of remark to top off everything you've said already. To a crowd is really included very, very strongly. And I don't know if you want to say a last remark. I think we've.
Oh, to me?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I misunderstood that. Yeah, my last remarks is that we should get through these uncertain times with strength and pull out the happiness and the gratefulness that we can feel. We should all be healthy, and God should give us the courage to keep on persevering and living life to our fullest. So thank you so much for joining me today. I so appreciate you giving me your time, and may we meet each other in person very soon.
100%. So one moment, I want to unmute everybody, and everyone join me in giving a real round of applause. Incredible. Her husband. It's really, really something very, very special, and we look up Boziman, and God willing, get to there soon.
Yes, come visit. We love it.
Thank you. Very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you all so much for joining and being part of it.
Thank you so much. Good night.
On Zoom and on Facebook, and we'll see you on many other things. It's so great to see all of you, and we really appreciate it. Can you all chat with each other and say goodbye? If anyone has any other questions, actually, I'm going to say that clear as mud blog. I'll put it on here in the chat. She really writes about her story, and you can copy and paste from your chat. Copy and paste from your chat her blog. Very inspirational.
There he is. Oh, shit, he got fat. Yeah, look at him. Look what he looks like.
Beautiful. So Zygons, everybody. And really, thank you, and it was a pleasure to have you all on.
Thank you, Rabbi, for organizing it.
Thank you. You're welcome. All the best. Good to see everyone, all of our friends, and more on here with us.